In April of 1992, Hutu power extremists seized control of the Rwandan government and perpetrated one of the most horrendous genocides since the end of World War II. Over 800,000 Tutsis and Hutu moderates were slaughtered in the space of 100 days. However, the sufferings of those people who have been left refugees have made the pain caused by this genocide last well beyond those 100 days.
Africa saw 25 million people displaced and over 10 million refugees in 1994. At least 2.5 million of those refugees came from Rwanda, which witnessed a disturbingly quick genocide that killed hundreds of thousands in such a short time period. Thousands of Rwandans crossed borders into Burundi, Malawi, Uganda, Tanzania, Zambia, and Zimbabwe to escape their country and the genocide, but a number of more fortunate Rwandans found a safer haven in a few European countries that allowed the refugees to stay. It was not until towards the end of the 1990s that many Rwandan refugees, especially those in Burundi and Uganda, began to return to Rwanda. Despite the growing number of returning refugees, fear of resurgence and killings by remaining Hutu extremists discouraged some Rwandans from returning.
In 1885, at the Berlin Conference, Germany was given control of the region of Africa encompassing present-day Rwanda. In 1894, the first European explorers arrived in Rwanda. In 1916, following the end of the First World War, Belgium took over Rwanda, relying upon the ethnic hierarchy, using the Tutsis to rule the country. In 1926, Belgium introduced ethnic identity cards, and in 1933 there was a census conducted, and using identity cards was made compulsory. In 1959, the King of Rwanda dies, and the Hutus, supported by the Belgians, rose up against the Tutsi nobility. Rwanda is granted its independence from Belgium in 1962, and in the following year, many Rwandan Tutsis are forced to leave the country. In 1967, there are massacres against Tutsis living inside of Rwanda. In 1973, the Tutsis are subjected to a quota system, and they are forced from many jobs and schools. In 1975, President Habyarimana forms a national party and makes Rwanda into a one-party state. He gives preference to the Hutu in government positions and schools. And in 1986, the exiled Tutsis formed the RPF, the Rwanda Patriotic Front.
After many attempts to negotiate the return of exiled Tutsis, the RPF decided that in 1990 several thousand well-trained RPF soldiers invaded Rwanda, scoring early victories against the Rwandan army. President Habyarimana used this conflict to prop up his own rule, which was slowly failing because of an ailing economy. He appealed to those in the Hutu power movement in order to secure his rule in the eyes of Hutus. However, as the RPF continued to advance towards Kigali, it became clear that the army could not stop them. An intervention force of French and Belgian troops brought the RPF advance to a halt. A stalemate set in, and a ceasefire was called. As the two sides negotiated the Arusha Accords, it seemed that the concessions agreed to by the Rwandan government would prove to be unacceptable to those in the Hutu power movement.
General Romeo Dallaire was commissioned as the commander of the United Nations Assistance Mission to Rwanda in October 1993. UNAMIR, as it is called, was tasked with stopping or mitigating the violence in the Rwandan Civil War long enough to implement the Arusha Accords. The Accords stated that the Hutu were supposed to give up positions of power in the government to the Tutsis. On the night of 6 April 1994, the aircraft carrying Rwandan President Habyarimana and the President of Burundi was shot down by an unknown soldier. This mystery has never been solved, but the Hutu extremists used this incident to commence their genocide on Hutu moderates and Tutsis by blaming the Tutsis for the assassination. Dallaire ordered 10 Belgian soldiers to protect the Rwandan Prime Minister, but the next day the Prime Minister's wife, the Prime Minister, and the 10 Belgian soldiers were found dead, murdered by the Rwandan government forces. The genocide began, and conditions in Rwanda rapidly deteriorated. General Dallaire pleaded with UNAMIR's chain of command in New York City to send an additional 2,000 heavily armed troops. He claimed that 5,000 well-armed troops could stop the genocide from continuing. His requests for more troops were denied by the UN Security Council.
As the genocide progressed and press reports put increasing pressure on the UN, they decided to launch UNAMIR II. Backed by 5,500 French soldiers, it was initially opposed by General Dallaire due to France's historic loyalty to the Hutu power. The genocide finally ended on July 18th of 1994 when RPF forces raided Kigali and gained control of the rest of Rwanda under the leadership of Tutsi rebel commander Paul Kagame.